Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is Calling All Minions, and let's get started. So 2Tap asks starter ships, endgame ships. This is a post more specific to the Pioneer. We know it's an endgame vessel. I've also noticed this year and last year that you have been adding mid-tier ships, such as the Vulcan to the Starfarer, the Prospector to the Orion. Is there any plans on creating a mid-tier / entry-level construction ship for building bases? I can almost guarantee you 100% that that's there, or that's something that you're going to see within the next year, if not the next few months. Building bases is a high interest of mine, as I am an old Rust player that enjoys the raiding aspect. Okay, should solos, duos, etc. have to rely on orgs to build their bases, which people are going to charge extortionate prices? What if I bought a Pioneer and it wasn't the gameplay for me? That's a lot to invest in a ship, not knowing if you are even going to enjoy that gameplay. I believe this is why we need a mid-tier. You don't have to make the case for it, dude. The case is already made. It's a thing that's going to happen. I understand the Pioneer is a flying factory, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, yeah, a mid-tier to low-tier construction ship, I can almost guarantee it. In fact, I think that the big 200 IQ move would be to take the Crucible, because it's got those two empty spaces, one in the front and one in the back, and just say, you know what, you're not a factory, but you can buy prefab and you can lock it in with tractor beams. It's a variant of the Crucible, or a modular possibility, I mean, whatever, and you can just drop and basically place smaller, installations on the surface in different areas for people. That sort of thing. I mean, the Crucible, I think it's even supposed to have a couple of little robotic arms, so that could work in your favor for that. Now, if you do something like that, that's two birds with one stone. You get your Crucible built, you get that thing done, you get a variant, you get a new ship, you get sales. That's the way that I would go with it immediately. That would be my immediate reaction. If I was sitting in the boardroom and this came across, I would say this is how you do it. People may disagree, but this is what I would say. As for getting into the gameplay and maybe saying, well, I'm not sure that I'm going to like it, this is something that I think a lot of players kind of feel. I mean, certainly, like those of us that have salvage ships, we're always like, come on, where's the salvage? Where's the salvage? Because we want to try it. We want to see how it's going to shape up. We want to see how it works. We want to know what the claw does. Miners, they've gotten a taste, but obviously there's work left to be done on that end, and the Starfarer, well, whenever that's going to happen. We see these things and we think, oh, this was going to be released 6 months ago and it's not here yet. So, I mean, until it's finished, it's not really a thing. There's a lot of us out there who are kind of in the same boat as you, and we would like to see these things finished, and we wish that they were higher priority, but right now, if it's not something that appears in Squadron 42, it's probably not a priority. And right now, the next 2 years are Squadron 42 pretty much through and through. So I share your enthusiasm for things like this. I can almost guarantee you we're going to get a ship like this. But yeah, when we're going to see the actual gameplay for something like the Pioneer, I mean, without it being built and without a variant being built, that's something that we're probably not going to see for 2 to 3 years. So it is what it is on that. Sorry. Here we go. Fern, FPS AI in random locations on planet. In order to combat the feeling of planets being empty, can we expect gangs of FPS AI on planets placed randomly outside of missions anytime soon? What is currently holding this back? Servers can't handle it, and it requires a little bit of work to kind of make the logic for them spawning here, there, everywhere. I think, like, let's say Daymar, you may have desert bandits wandering in and out of different areas, or there may be a gang of people hanging around the wrecked the Javelin on Daymar, that sort of thing. I can almost guarantee you that that's going to be a thing that's going to be in the game, but it's probably, there's a lot of AI issues, spawning issues, and a lot of things to work out for something like that. And that's something that's more down the line, and it's not something that's immediate. I mean, you've seen the AI in the game currently and all the weird duplications and odd spawns that you get in cities in the game right now. So there's a lot of systems in the game that need work before something like this could exist without probably creating more problems than it would ever solve. So something I would say is almost guaranteed to be down the road, but right now, But I would like to see it. And a topic that seems like it was almost destined for me. Maythor asks, ship MFDs and HUDs, and why are they so screwed up? So, as a bit of a precursor to this, you may want to watch Reverse the Verse with Todd Pappy, which happened last Friday, which, excellent episode, by the way. Excellent episode, but he kind of touched on a little of this. But let's get to the question first. This has kind of always bugged me. I grew up playing flight simulators and even flying actual flight simulators on Air Force bases. And the info the displays provided me was always crisp, clear, easy to understand, and you did not have to go searching for it. Tonight, one of my org members, who himself is a pilot, mentioned the same thing. That when it comes to the ship HUDs and MFDs, it just looks like someone did a very poor copy of simulators. Yes. Why wouldn't CIG just model their HUD and MFDs off planes in actual service? Okay, so let's kind of mini tackle this one because I don't want to have to like read this whole thing and then break it all down. The reason for that is because CIG is trying to use a one MFD style solution. But the problem is that while the MFDs are uniform to all the different manufacturers, the position and the placement is not uniform. So they're all at various different distances and angles from the viewer. So where a screen like that may work in one ship, it doesn't work in another. So they're trying to kind of create a one-stop solution for all the different types of ships. But, you know, they're making different cockpits to, you know, show you that all these ships are different. They come from different manufacturers. So in a weird way, they're trying to apply a single solution to a multitude of different ships and different configurations, and it doesn't work because the viewing distance is always different, right? And now a lot of these things I've tackled before, but when you look at, say, a Hornet, if you own a Hornet, this is something that you can actually hop into the game and do right now, and you can test this. It's crazy, but what CIG is trying to do is they're trying to bring back the old Wing Commander where you saw the hand on the flight stick, because back in the 80s that made people like, oh my god, this is so immersive. I can, when I move, my hand on the screen moves. That's crazy. Wow. It's so immersive. And we kind of look at those things and we kind of, we chuckle about them now, but you get that feeling when you're in the cockpit of a Hornet. And so CIG is trying to fulfill that artistic idealization that they had, that's been carried over since the 80s. The problem is if you get into a Hornet right now and you go to an exterior view, you hit your F4 key, you hold down Z, and you zoom around outside of your ship. And if you try to zoom in on your cockpit from the side and you look at your character and you see where your character is actually holding the flight stick, they're actually holding it almost all the way up at chin level, which is ridiculously high. It's almost comical, but that's the distance that they have to go to create that look, right? That's the compromise that they have to make to create that look, because in that you notice how unrealistic it was in the original Wing Commander, but it looked cool at the time. And so this is something that they've carried over, but it doesn't make sense. And it's a lot of the same problem with the MFDs and cockpit configurations, is it looks cool, but it doesn't make sense. And so that's where you get a lot of these problems. They can't make a one-stop solution for all the MFDs and then move all the MFDs to all these different positions. Some are too big, some are too small, some are illegible. It creates a lot of issues, right? And so this is kind of what you're experiencing. is they're kind of at war with themselves on this problem, and they're trying to create this artistic idealization, but they're realizing, or they're struggling with realizing that it's not practical for the game that they want to create, this first-person universe where, you know, nothing is simulated, and when you're looking down the barrel of a gun, you're actually looking down the actual barrel of a gun, which, you know, is of questionable value, but that's what they want to create. And along with that comes all these added issues which they're trying to wrestle with, but they can't really solve because their artistic idealization would have to be thrown out in order to do this. And, you know, they're kind of stuck on this thing. So this is probably a problem that is going to carry over for some time, because, I mean, this has been identified and, you know, complained about and explained many, many times over the years, and they have not budged. So that's that thing. Instead of using artists to create what they think is right, and in fact is a horrendous imitation that is the ridicule of anyone who flies one of these ships. Yeah. Why doesn't CIG just reach out to people who actually fly real planes on a regular basis and give insight into how to best display the info? They don't want to do that because that would mean shedding that artistic idealization of what the cockpit should look like. I would think that would be the smart way to go, but I don't know if CIG is too afraid of being politically correct to actually bring on military advisors in that manner, or what. It's not a question of being politically correct. It's a question of being publicly incorrect. I think that's kind of the big thing, and along with that comes the realization that you would have to reconfigure the cockpits of most of your fighters to be more realistic and less idealistic, and they just don't want to sign up for that work. Could you imagine, like, sometimes you get that certain undercurrent of frustration from people at CIG when they're being interviewed and they have to talk about it, and then I had to go back and redo it, and I had to go back and redo it. Could you imagine if they went back and they said every cockpit of pretty much every fighter needs a rework? Could you imagine what that would cause? And, like, there's a part of them that those MFDs are really important. I mean, why do you think we got those gigantic MFDs in the cockpit of the, oh my god, the little fighter that you start Squadron 42 off with? Not the Hornet, the Gladius. Yeah. Why do you think we got those big screens in there? Is it because all of a sudden this information is critical? No, it's so you can have a video conversation with Mark Hamill and whoever else, and so you can see all the, you know, the actors that they paid. Why do you? That's why we got that, because all that information otherwise is kind of next to useless. There's an idealized vision that you can go in and you can mess with all this different stuff, like, oh, let's tweak my signal strength and all that. But you can easily zoom away to the side where there's a little panel that you can control those things. But for combat, you don't really need all these MFDs, especially when you can display most of this on the HUD or in the, you know, in the helmet if you need that information. But, you know, I think they've gone all in on these MFDs, and so they're really struggling with this, and it's going to be an issue that's going to continue to plague them for a while. I think in the end they think that UI is just going to come in and wave a magic wand and somehow fix it, but they can't create a solution that fits every single different cockpit of every single different ship. Someone's going to have to go in and manually configure all of them, and it's probably going to be a real nightmare of a job. Whereas if they were all just uniform and you just projected all the information into the helmet and you could just control it all by voice commands, it kind of would be a one-stop solution to all of it. But, you know, that's just me. God, you knew I was going to take that one on for sure. All right, I think that one was a long one, so I think this will be the last one. Crom asks, small exploration ship roles. Small exploration ships like the 315P, Mustang Beta, and Aurora have limited fuel and space. And as such, a limited jump range. When food comes into play, it might also limit the time that you can spend aboard such a ship. You're making some interesting points here. This to me means you can't spend days mapping an unknown system without some kind of refuel/resupply. But in lore, there are such stories. How do you intend to make this possible now with the new flight model? The effective range got lowered massively for such ships, and exploration as such feels like it will be a multiplayer co-op occupation. This of course also applies to the Bounty Hunter Avenger, as the need for resupply seems to come into effect rather fast. Okay, so this once again is kind of, they have a vision for how things are going to be, and that vision has shifted somewhat. And sorry, I just kind of had to stifle a burp there. This vision has shifted somewhat, and I think that they're still wrestling with all the knock-on effects that this is going to cause. I think their idealized vision is with smaller ships, you're going to form more of a community around certain planets and those kind of planetary systems within a star system, and you're not going to be traveling that far out. With smaller exploration ships, you're probably going to end up being more like getting missions from the local exploration authority, like check out this anomaly here, check out this wreck over here, scan this valley and see what resources there are. That's probably where the smaller exploration ships are going to more or less be used. So the idea of traveling into another star system and mapping an entire star system with a 315P, I don't think that that's going to be something that's going to end up being in the final version of the game. For good or for bad, that's probably where the smaller exploration ships are going to end up. You're going to be going out and doing smaller little missions. And the bigger stuff, like mapping an entire solar system, is going to be in the hands of the Carrack or other exploration ships like the Corsair, possibly. Unless they make a massive adjustment to these smaller ships, I don't think that is going to be a thing. And I mean, there is a certain element of realism to this, to defend them. I mean, a smaller exploration ship might be left more to littler, more up close, take a second look at this valley, we detected what might be iron here, go and check this out, that sort of thing. Whereas the bigger ships would be more for covering an entire system. So there is a certain amount of realism to it. A smaller ship wouldn't have that much range. It may be tied to a mothership to do the more finer exploration. So you might end up doing you won't be doing quantity, you'll be doing quality exploration. So you'll be taking more high-res scans of much more local areas, and that's probably where they see it falling. So it may not be all that unrewarding or all that bad, but the idea of covering an entire star system with a small ship, I think that we are firmly steered away from that, and chances are the entry-level ships are going to be more or less for the small stuff and not the big stuff, like checking out an entire solar system. Anyways, that I think is going to make it the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.